Good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to the Council Chamber. For those of you outside, this is the Cabinet Council meeting on Wednesday the 12th of October, and the time now is 4 o'clock. First and foremost, then, can I have apologies?
We have apologies for Councillor Poulter, Councillor Williams, Rachel North and Andy Smith. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other apologies? Thanks, Councillor Upton. So moving on, late items. There is a late item that I think everybody's got in their pack. It's a paper relating to the Short Breaks Innovation Funding, and I intend to take that at item 10 together with the other matters in item 10. Everybody got a copy of that? Okay, thanks. So number 3, receipt of petitions. There are none. Identification of urgent items at item 4, to which calling will apply. There are none. Declarations of interest. There are none. Minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of September 2022. Copy is in the pack. Will somebody move? Thank you, Councillor Smale. Seconded by Councillor Eyre. Thank you, Councillor Eyre. So, moving on to recommendations from the Executive Scrutiny Board, there are none on the papers that are before us today. So, moving then to key decisions at item 8. Establishment of the Joint Executive Committee with Derbyshire County Council for the Derby and Derbyshire Integrated Partnership. And we're speaking on that is?
That's me, Chair. Alison Wynne, Assistant Director of Public Health. So
thank you, Alison.
I'll quickly take you through the paper, Chair. So just by way of context, so the Health and Social Care Act of 2022 established the integrated care systems, and that was from July of this year onwards. Integrated care systems are composed of 2 statutory functions, the first of which is the Integrated Care Board, the ICB, and that's a statutory NHS organisation which is responsible for the local NHS budget and the provision of local NHS services. The second element, and of which the paper is predominantly about, is the Integrated Care Partnership, and these are partnerships of a range of local organisations, voluntary sector, etc., that are concerned with coming together to improve the care and health and well-being of the local population, and is responsible for producing the integrated care strategy. And also, apologies, just to note in terms of the Integrated Care Board, they've essentially taken on the responsibilities of the local clinical commissioning groups as well. The integrated care system locally covers both Derby and Derbyshire, so it's the whole patch of Derby and Derbyshire, and locally that's called Joined Up Care Derbyshire, that some of you or many of you will be already aware. So the report essentially gives a little bit more of an overview of the Integrated Care Board and the Integrated Care Partnership and what they're around. Also talks a little bit about the Health and Wellbeing Board. So as part of the Act, the Health and Wellbeing Board and its responsibilities haven't fundamentally changed. So there will continue to be a Health and Wellbeing Board within the city, and that will continue to be a statutory committee of the council. And also to note is that the role and function of the Adults and Health Scrutiny Committee will also remain unchanged, and the Integrated Care Partnership will be subject to the health scrutiny arrangements of the 2 councils. So essentially the report is asking to approve the recommendations that are set out in between 2.1 and 2.7 of the report. And probably the key ones to bring attention to are the establishment of the Integrated Care Partnership as a joint committee, and there is a statutory requirement that we do that, and that is between the 2 upper tier local authorities within the patch and the Integrated Care Board. for Cabinet to approve the Integrated Care Partnership terms of reference and the proposed council membership of that partnership that are set out in 4.24, and also to note that the intention is that the Integrated Care Partnership will be hosted and managed by Derby City Council. I think that's probably all I wanted to run you through today, Chair. I don't know, Alex, was there anything you wanted to add or?
No, thank you, Chair. The only point I would add is that this board is being constituted as a joint committee of the two executives, so of the cabinets of Derbyshire County Council, Derby City Council, and also the Integrated Care Board. So in being a joint committee of the executive, that means that only cabinet members can sit on it, and then it would be subject to the scrutiny arrangements of the two local authorities that are party to the joint committee.
Yes, thank you for that. It's a bit of a complicated wedding, I would suggest, or overall, but very important that we all work together and get these partnerships operating for the benefit of the public. Councillor Webb, it's your portfolio. Anything to add?
I'll defer to Councillor Repton.
By all means, Councillor Repton.
Thank you, Chair. What real positive differences do councillors feel these proposals will make to the quality and quantity of health and social care on offer to Derby residents? Because reports out today sadly suggest how much left NHS is in, quote, danger of collapse, with 2 out of 5 doctors leaving the NHS. And some people suggested last night that it was sadly, unless we take real action, it's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
I'll take second question first, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, this is a joint committee of the two executives from each council, and obviously they'll be subject to scrutiny arrangements. Is there any provision for a joint scrutiny meeting to be held? There may well be something that covers both councils, and they want to. The scrutiny committees want to do that together.
Okay, Councillor Webber, can you answer that, or do I need to go back to the officer?
The second part is yes, there is a possibility of joint scrutiny, particularly if both executives are looking at a specific issue. Let's say it's exiting people from hospital in a safe manner, so there wouldn't be a point in each individual executive looking at that. We could look at that jointly. So the arrangements are there, and they will be followed through. With regard to the advantages of this, I've got to say up front that relationships with health have never been better in my time than they are at the moment. The relationships are excellent, and this is a joint committee. It provides links with the clinical side of the health service, along with ambulance and A&E, all the care services provided by health, and that link with social care services. So when discharging from hospital, we will be continuing arrangements that have been made to ensure people exit hospital safely. So the arrangements are there. It's got also, as Alison mentioned, the links with the community and voluntary sector, and we are all equal partners in that relationship. The advantages that will be seen locally are things like working together on health inequalities. So the health service is recognising that housing plays a significant part in health inequalities across the city. And that means that for the first time, that has been recognised fully across our health services, and looking at those issues around housing, so damp, etc., serious issues around housing standards that we don't have in Derby homes, but there are in other areas of the city, are recognised through health. So members, I can assure you, will be getting a full briefing on the workings of the ICP, Integrated Care Partnership, and the Integrated Care Board, their links with health and well-being in the near future. It's important that we move this forward with Derby City hosting these arrangements for the next municipal year, so that we can move on and hopefully improve the services that are provided to all our residents through health and social care and the voluntary sector. So I would move recommendations 2.1 to 2.7.
Thanks, Councillor Webb, for that. It's of some solace to me that we, in actual fact, are hosting this, because we are, whilst we're in a partnership with the rest of the health authorities and so forth, we have got the experience more so than most in relation to the diversity within the city, and so therefore we can take this forward. So,
can I just say that I am currently chair of the Shadow Integrated Care Partnership, and it's a non-pecuniary interest, but I'll declare that as an interest at this point.
yes, noted. Thank you, Councillor Webb. So, Cabinet, if there's no questions, recommendation is 2.1 to 2.7. Are we agreed? Thank you. That's unanimous. So, moving on then to number 9, the Castle Ward Urban Village acquisition and funding arrangements. Catherine, I can see you smiling over there.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair. I'll briefly take Cabinet through the report on Castle Ward, which outlines the steps that we need to take to bring forward the next phase of land acquisition to deliver further housing at Castle Ward, and it details the approvals required for revised funding arrangements and necessary legal steps that we have to take associated with our compulsory purchase powers. We've already delivered a lot already at Castle Ward with our partners in Compendium Living and Homes England. In addition to more than 200 new homes at Castle Ward, we also have a new primary school now up and running, a new boulevard connecting the rail station with the city centre, and much better and improved public realm. And that strong partnership between Compendium Homes England and ourselves has also leveraged funding from the Housing Infrastructure Fund to support further land acquisition. So we've been working with Compendium on how we bring forward the next phase. They're on site with phase 3 now, and we want to bring forward phase 4. So we're going to use our compulsory purchase powers to do that. And before pressing the button, we asked for forecast cost estimates to be refreshed, and primarily due to property values increasing on the back of higher demand for industrial property. Those forecast cost estimates have increased. We've agreed a way forward with Compendium how we deal with this. Primarily, this means Compendium guaranteeing us a capital contribution for the land that we'll be transferring to them for the housing delivery. There is a balance left after that contribution of £330,000, and we're proposing that that's added to the capital programme and funded from savings we anticipate on other schemes this financial year. We do need to adjust our legal agreement with Compendium to allow for this, so the report details what that requires us to do, and then the confidential version of this report provides more detail around programme and milestones, etc. So I'd refer Cabinet to recommendations 2.1 to 2.4 that detail the funding changes and legal agreements required to deliver the next compulsory purchase phase. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I would remind members present that we have a confidential paper at the back which gives the financial details. Councillor Repton.
Yes, the costs of the CPOs are going up, but in the flagship project there are serious concerns being raised by local people and councillors about drug dealing and other antisocial behaviour that needs seriously addressing, including looking at possible additional walls, fencing, barriers and other architectural means to design out or deter such antisocial behavioural activities. Urgent involvement of the architects, project managers and local people is essential to nip these problems in the bud, to avoid reputational damage which could lead to people wanting to move out from this development. So there are issues there. I think we need to take them seriously and look at ways that we can put pressure on the project managers, the developers of the new sites and the existing houses to look at why these problems are occurring and what extra needs to be done to actually prevent or deter. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you for that, Councillor Repton. I mean, the development has been developing, shall we say, for a long time now, and I'm sure everybody is getting wiser as the progression carries on. I'm sure that it will be taken into account from the developers as to the concerns which may or may not occur in the particular area that we're talking about here. Any other questions? No? And so therefore, Cabinet, we move to recommendations 2.1 to 2.4. Are we agreed? Thank you. Councillor Smell, are you with us as well? Good. Moving on then to item 10, compliance with contractual and financial procedure rules. Quite a conglomeration here. Alison, are you going to start us off?
I am, Chair, yes, thank you. Okay, so this is our regular report in terms of approvals in relation to compliance with our contract and financial procedure rules. The first item on the report is in relation to Chaddesden Wood Local Nature Reserve. This is in relation to a Section 106 agreement that was signed by the City Council in March 2016 for the Lime Lane development, which was a residential scheme of up to 250 dwellings in Oakwood. And the agreement places a requirement of the developer to pay a sum of £112,000 for improvements to Chaddesden Wood Local Nature Reserve. The report is seeking approval to award a capital grant to the Friends of Chaddesden Woods Local Nature Reserve of the full £112,000 over a 10-year period. So the recommendations in the report are to approve the use of the Section 106 agreement and to award the grant to the Friends of Chaddesden Wood Local Nature Reserve. The second item on the report is in relation to a contract waiver, and that's to award a direct to a contract to Making Space. Now, the Council, along with the Integrated Care Board, currently jointly commissioned a contract for services to support people living in the city with dementia. And the current service provider is an organisation called Making Space. Now, the commissioning of the original contract was done jointly with Derbyshire County Council, who led on that procurement, and Derbyshire County Council separately re-procured that contract in 2018. There is a drive to align the services across the system under the Joined Up Care Derbyshire Dementia Strategy, which includes our dementia support service, in terms of carrying out a joint review of the service provision across the city and county
footprint. And in order to do this, we need to realign the timing of those commissioning and the procurement of the new service with the county. So that would be to start in April 2024. In order to do this, we would need to seek approval to waive the requirement for an open tender process as per our contract procedure rules, and to directly award a contract to continue with our existing provider until the 31st of March 2024. The value of that contract is £175,000 per year, so over the 2-year period it would be £350,000, and there's sufficient budget within the revenue budget to support that. So the recommendation of the report is to directly award a contract to Making Space for 1 year with a further extension for a further year. The third item on the report is in relation to some external funding that has been from the Office of Health Inequalities and Disparities, and a bit of acceptance of that funding. So as part of the government's intention to reduce rough sleeping and address some of its links to substance misuse, Derby City Council was identified in the top 20 local authorities and given the opportunity to bid for a Local Government Act Section 31 grant in relation to the allocation to improve drug and alcohol outcomes for rough sleepers, with an allocation of 638,000 spread over 2 financial years from April 22 until the March 2024. The recommendations in the report is to align this funding along our current service delivery with Derby City Mission, who currently delivers the By My Side programme to tackle substance misuse and rough sleeping, and that was using funding from the round 1 of the rough sleeping drug and alcohol treatment grant. It's recommended in the report to approve to bid and accept the funding for round 2 of the funding grant, but also to approve the award of the rough and sleeping drug and alcohol treatment grant for round 2 to the appropriate with the subject to the grant agreements to Derby City Mission for the continued delivery of that service. The third item on the report is in relation to the Household Support Fund. The Household Support Fund is the third round that the City Council will have received in terms of grant funding. On the 22nd of September, the Council was informed of some draft allocations for the continuation of the Household Support Fund from the 1st of October to the 31st of March 2023. Individual local authorities allocations are yet to be confirmed, but we do think our allocation will be along the lines of our previous allocations in rounds 1 and 2, which is circa £2.224 million. We haven't yet received the full guidance and grant conditions of the scheme, so it's recommended in the report to approve the acceptance of the Household Support Fund round 3 and to award and to approve the delegation and the final details of the scheme to the Strategic Director of People Services and the Cabinet Member for Children and Young People and Skills. In relation to the late item on item 10, that's in relation to a Short Breaks Innovation Fund. This is funding that has been released by the Department for Education, and the report seeks approval to submit a joint bid with Derbyshire County Council, and that's between £500,000 and £1 million. The DFE Short Breaks Innovation Fund is a national allocation of circa £30 million, and it's designed to support local authorities to apply individually or in consortium to establish a new short breaks provision, and that is to support services for children and young people with SEND, with special educational needs and disabilities. The deadline to develop the bid and submit the bids is the 4th of November, so it's an incredibly tight time scale, but we're working in partnership with Derbyshire County Council to submit that bid. There is no recommendations for match funding within the bid, and the recommendations of the report is to seek approval to develop and submit a bid along with Derbyshire County Council for the additional funding as released by the Department for Education and the Short Breaks Innovation Fund. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. I'm going to take them bit by bit while we go through these recommendations. So 2.1 to 2.3 relates to the Chadders and Wood matter. Is there any questions on that to start with? Matt? Sorry, Councillor Ray.
Yep.
Fabulous, thanks, Chair. Just to double check recommendation 2.3, so you've said it's £12,000 a year for the group over 10 years, but that would come to £120,000 and we're saying 112. Can I just double check which the figure is?
Yeah, absolutely. The sum in total is 112 in relation to the section 106. That's a rounding up error of the £11.3 thousand per year. So yes, sorry about that. It's a bit misleading in the report, but the absolute total is the section 106 agreement.
Yeah, fabulous. And will that be, I guess it might not be necessarily one to explain to us here today, but will it be a case that it's 12,000 for each of the years, then a lesser amount in one of the years, or?
I would suspect it will be the full amount, the 11.3 thousand over the full 4 years, yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. And really, Chair, just to put on record my thanks, no doubt your thanks as one of my ward colleagues, and also Councillor Robin Wood's thanks, and the thanks of all residents really to members of the Friends of Chaddersden Wood group for all the work they do at Chaddersden Wood, especially to Heather, Nick, Rob, Christine, everyone who organises the volunteers to be there every month, and my apologies to them for missing this month and for missing next month as well. And also thanks to Dave Winslow from Derby Parks, who's there for every session, and is absolutely brilliant. We're incredibly lucky to have this bit of ancient woodland in our city, and especially in our ward. And the volunteers are there each month building the pond fencing, tending to the excess greenery, looking after the pathway, litter picking and everything else. They hold various events there throughout the year. This Section 106 money will do a really, really good job for them to working on the new projects they've got coming up this year. So, yeah, this recommendation has my full support. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor. Beat you, that one did, Councillor Repton, didn't it? I mean, any comments on Chadwood? No. So we move on then. First and foremost, then let's get that sorted. Recommendations 2.1 to 2.3. All those in favour? Thank you. So we move on then to 2.4. Approval of the Cabinet waiver to direct funding for making space. Any comments on that? Any questions on that one? No?
Just to welcome it, Chair, this funding is needed and it will be put to good use.
It's nice to see that we're still getting some government funding come in for all sorts of things.
Yes.
Whether it's enough is a matter of debate, but yeah, and is worth something. Yeah.
But aligning this so that we can move forward jointly through the integrated care system is a target that we need to achieve.
It all works hand in glove. Yeah. Thanks. So Cabinet 2.4, we agreed with that. Thank you. Moving on then to 2.5 to 2.7, which is the bid in relation to Section 31 revenue grant for drug and alcohol treatment. I noticed we've got Dr. Richard in the room as well. Should he have to answer a question? But welcome, Richard. It's nice to see you.
Thank you, Chair. £638,000 is being proposed to be spent over 2 years to tackle drug-related problems. Are we expecting and hoping this will positively affect the number of people with drug-related problems on our streets in the city? And if not, why not?
I don't know if that's a question we can actually answer in this forum today. No doubt, Richard, you might want to make a comment.
Thank you, Chair. I can offer a perspective on that. This funding is specifically targeted at rough sleepers and those at risk of rough sleeping. And the purpose of the money is to facilitate their access into drug and alcohol treatment and also to ensure that those who are not in treatment can access drug treatment. It's not a panacea, but it will definitely have an impact in the lives of individuals who are rough sleeping and at risk of rough sleeping, in conjunction with other initiatives such as housing and social care and other psychological support. So the answer is it will have a positive impact on Councillor Repton's comments.
Thank you for that. Councillor Webb.
There's been a number of initiatives over rough sleeping in the past 4.5 years that I've been involved as Cabinet member. we've seen the number of rough sleepers reduce dramatically, and to continue with that work, this will give an added bonus to that work, because the most difficult to engage people are being supported through this drugs and alcohol strategy that has a real impact on their lives, and this treatment and the availability over 2 years is going to be a benefit to them if they engage with the treatment, but most of all it's going to be a benefit to the city to get the remaining rough sleepers into proper treatment that will help and guide them out of some of the habits that they currently pursue.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Webb. Moving then 2.5 to 2.7 in relation to this, Cabinet content. Thank you. Dr. Martin, can I just say that whilst this specifically does talk about rough sleep in particular, I do know of the good work that you do throughout the city in relation to drug misuse and so forth, and can I, on behalf of the Cabinet, thank you for the hard work that you and your team do perform in trying to curb this menace of modern society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair.
So, moving on then to 2.8, which is the Household Support Fund. Yes, Councillor Overton.
Thank you, Chair. Is some of this funding to plug holes in the free school meals scheme? Because I understand that this help and support was reduced from £15 to £10. And if this is true, and how can it be justified at a time of soaring costs of food for families struggling with a cost of living crisis?
I don't really understand what the Household Support Fund's got to do with school meals, but Alison?
Yeah, thank you. Free school meals is vouchers during school holidays. Free school meals is part of the support areas that this fund actually supports and has done over the previous 2 schemes. I think what Councillor Repton is alluding to is the fact that on our Household Support Fund 2, the amount that we awarded per week for each child on free school meals was less than that in the Household Support 1 fund, and it was reduced. That is because we have a specific amount of money. We have £2.2 million over the period, and it depends on the numbers of cohorts that we are supporting through that finite pot of money in terms of how much support we can give. So I'm not sure that answers your question, Councillor Repton, but we have to design this scheme that is affordable within the allocation we get from government.
Any questions from Cabinet members? No? In other words then, can we take 2.8, 2.9? Those in favour? Thank you. Then we move to the additional paper, which is the Compliance with Contract and Financial Procedural Short Breaks Innovation Funding opportunity. Any questions in relation to that particular paper? Again, a very welcome grant that we are getting, and I'm sure it will help the young people of the city. Everybody content with that? So recommendations 2.1 and 2.2. Oh, sorry, Councillor Skelton.
Thank you, Chair. I very much welcome this because certainly anecdotal evidence that I have from talking with various parents of children with SEND is that what's on offer at the moment as far as short breaks is concerned doesn't sort of suit everybody. There's quite a restricted sort of choice. So I hope that as part of this, when we hopefully get the funding, we will be able to develop the market, as it might be said. So then there is a much wider range of things available for people to have as far as short breaks is concerned.
Yes, thank you for that, Councillor Skelton. So moving to the recommendations, Cabinet. Recommendations 2.1, 2.2. Those in favour? Thank you for that. So moving on, we move to the, it's on here somewhere, isn't it? Exclusion. Oh, Derby Drug and Alcohol Strategic Partnership. Councillor Martin again.
Thank you. I think you promoted me there, Chair, but...
Sorry, doctors even more important.
Thank you. If I could give some background and context. In December 2021, the government published a new 10-year drug strategy, From Harm to Hope, based on the recommendations from an independent review conducted by Dame Carol Black. The observations were that over many years there had been a disinvestment in drug and alcohol treatment, and there had been a disconnect between various elements of government departments in tackling the harms caused by drugs. The strategy that was published is very comprehensive and has three key strands. They are to break drug supply chains, which is a policing initiative and a focus for the Home Office and the Ministry of Justice, to deliver world-class treatment, which is part and parcel of the responsibilities of the Council, and also to achieve a generational shift in relation to the demand for drugs, focusing on education, prevention and early intervention. It's safe to say that there is a reasonable amount of money that is associated with that grant or with this strategy coming to the Council to enhance treatment aspects. And the government have also developed a central government joint combating drugs unit. Within their brief, the Joint Combating Drugs Unit has instructed all local areas at a footprint no smaller than a county-wide footprint to develop a strategic drug and alcohol partnership. So this paper basically asks Cabinet to agree to enter into a drug and alcohol strategic partnership with Derbyshire County Council, the Integrated Care Board, the Police and Crime Commissioner and senior police officers, in order that it can be advisory and advise this council and others on the best approach to tackling drug-related harm. And a second recommendation is that Cabinet delegate authority to the Strategic Director of Peoples in consultation with a Cabinet Member for Adults, Health and Housing to finalise our representation on that partnership. I think that's enough, if I may, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Martin. My apologies for calling you Councillor. Freudian slip. Yeah, I mean, my personal experience over many years now in relation to drug strategy and all the things that have come out of government is one of trying to really catch up with the problem. And I suppose one has to accept this is the latest iteration of that. And so therefore I personally don't believe we have any choice but to align ourselves with it. As I said earlier, we have got a problem and we need that sort of broad church of people involved to be able to formulate our own policies and get the intelligence, etc., that's needed. So, any questions on this? Anything from Cabinet?
Just to say, my report says Cabinet Member for Adults and Health, but Dr. Martin correctly titled it Adults, Health and Housing. Again, this is a combination report that will link health and public health, in this case, with other parties to work on a strategy and partnership that will help some of the people that are struggling with these dependencies. And we always welcome new money and new partnerships to be able to deal with these treatments, because it cannot be done alone. It's got to have a holistic approach, and this will give us that approach.
Yes, thank you for that. So, Cabinet, I'll go to the recommendations 2.1, 2.2. We're content with that? Okay, thank you. So I move, that's the normal business concluded. I move to the exclusion of the press and the public, which is to consider a resolution to exclude the press and public during consideration of the following item is that under section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and the public be excluded from the meeting during discussion of the following items on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Act, and that public interest is maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Do you accept that resolution? I'll have a no-nos from you. Okay.